Africa just 2 days earlier. The move comes after a request from the South African government. Taiwan rarely uses chip exports as diplomatic leverage, but this time the move came after South Africa downgraded two Taiwanese representative offices in the country. South Africa first proposed the downgrade in 2023, asking Taiwan to move one of its offices out of its capital. That same year, it hosted the BRICS summit and welcomed Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping. With Xi expected at the G20 Leaders Summit this November, South Africa has stepped up pressure on Taiwan. In response, Taiwan imposed 47 semiconductor export restrictions on South Africa. Officials cited national security concerns. The restrictions were originally scheduled to take effect at the end of November. South Africa has now agreed to talks with Taiwan over the representative office issue. President Trump says a bipartisan congressional group wrapped up their visit in China on Thursday. The delegation was led by Congressman Adam Smith. He's the top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee. That's the panel that oversees the Pentagon and U.S. military. In a rare move, the group met with China's defense minister during their 5-day visit. To discuss the trip, we spoke with retired U.S. Marine Colonel Grant Newsham. He's a senior fellow at the Center for Security Policy. Grant, earlier this week, a bipartisan delegation of lawmakers met with Chinese Defense Minister Dong Jun in China. This was the first such delegation in 6 years. Those types of formal trips ended with COVID-19 and, of course, the tensions that followed between the two countries. First, what do you make of this rare visit and talks with the defense minister?
Well, ultimately, not much. I think after some period of time, say in this case 30, 40 years, where we've exchanged these kinds of visits, you have to ask yourself, what has been the positive outcome of this? Has China become less aggressive? Has they stopped bullying the Japanese, the Philippines, the South Koreans? Have they stopped seizing the South China Sea? Have they stopped building a military intended to defeat the United States and to dominate every other country in the region and with global ambitions? Is it a more liberal society in China, as was supposed to be the case if we just talked to them and showed them by our example how they should behave? And what has been the outcome of that, of these meetings? I would suggest not much at all. And most recently, we have Xi Jinping comes to San Francisco and meets President Biden, and while he's there, he lays down the law to President Biden and says, we're not going to wait forever when it comes to Taiwan. You've got to stop containing us. We expect you to do this, this, and this. The American side just sat and took it. That's those sorts of sort of lecturing. And he also, at the same time, it was a win-win for Xi Jinping because he had a room full of business luminaries from America give him two standing ovations. So it looked pretty good from China's perspective to be hosted that way, and they will play it like that. And I wouldn't expect, however, any change in Chinese behavior owing to these kinds of meetings.
I want to zoom into that because we just saw recently the military parade and then seems a more belligerent China and say the South China Sea against the Philippines especially, and always around Taiwan there's that tension bubbling. Of course, there's the current trade tensions between the two. Given that some are concerned about this meeting with the delegation and the defense minister in terms of military-to-military communication, pointing to history that we saw something similar with countries talking to Germany right before World War II. Should we be concerned in that regard?
I think we should. I think the fact we're talking doesn't mean that China has changed its objectives and what it intends to do at all. And you do have precedent for this, both in terms of Chinese behavior, but also, as you've mentioned, before World War II, you had, for example, you did have interactions between the Wehrmacht, between the German military and the Allies, and they would even actually attend each other's exercises. So you had engagement, and well, what did it get you? I would say not very much. Sometimes you're going to be taken more seriously by a regime like the PRC or like Germany in the 1930s if you show that you're not too eager to talk, but you're very eager to defend yourself and that you will do whatever is necessary. That gets taken seriously. Talking and having a nice dinner and exchanging toasts, that doesn't get you very far, nor do hotlines and at all.
And given all of that, what should the U.S. be doing in terms of signaling either deterrence or just sending that message to China to not ramp up aggression?
Well, first, when it comes to talking and engaging, is if you've got something to talk to us about, come and see us. But we're not going to beat down the door so that we can be let in. And at the end of the day, if we're not willing to do what is necessary to build up our Navy, to rebuild our military, to get our war stocks and our industrial capacity up to where it needs to be, well, no amount of talking is going to convince the Chinese that you cannot be defeated. So we have to do these concrete steps and also get our financial house in order somehow.
Coming up,
You're 4 weeks into switching to Samsung. Are we still going to be able to do our weekly video calls?
Do that on WhatsApp, and now we can do it hands-free.
Okay, so
今天谈了几个问题。首先，我们关注的是这个川普总统在联合国大会的这个演讲。我认为这个演讲的主题是阐述了一个拯救生命、追求和平的，我认为是人类最高的一个理念啊。所以整个演讲本身，我觉得是进入到了具有对全世界一种启蒙和改造的这样的一个作用，我给予它最高的一个评价啊。另外就谈到 TikTok 的问题，由先前的这个股权的剥离进入到这个演算法的重建的问题，美国一定要把这个演算法呢掌握在自己的手上啊，这样子才能够永久的杜绝中共利用这个网络平台来窃取包括美国在内的其他国家的这一个国家安全的问题啊。那么另外还要谈到一个。就是有人认为最近好像美中的关系出现了一些缓和的迹象，我觉得不是基本上美国的政策我把它称之为冷遏制就是避免这个热对抗的意思。那么中共的政策呢也是两手策略，我把它称之为冷和平那么简单的来讲的话，美国已经体认到这个国际关系上，如果你中共真的是要这个尔虞的话，那我也可能产生我采取我诈的态度，就是尔虞我诈的意思。那么最后我们谈到巴勒斯坦问题，我认为巴勒斯坦问题本身是一个无解方程式。为什么？因为恐怖主义没有这个解散消灭之前，任何承认这个以色列承认巴勒斯坦问题本身都不具有实质的意义所以目前这个情况的话，当然是出自于很多是来自于对加沙人民的一个同情，这是情有可原的但是它与这个巴勒斯坦的建国的问题本身是两回事所以承认巴勒斯坦问题，我总结的来讲，对于中东的和平，我觉得是没有实质的意义。
想看